Welcome all to another week of Energy Gists webinar. Our topic, it's empowering communities, off-grid solutions and microgrids in rural Africa. Meet our incredible guest for this week, Andy Peck, who is a visionary with over 30 years of experience in the manufacturing space. And in the past decade, Andy has been a driving force in the energy technology as the founder of Volt E Global. Join us as Andy shares his insights and experiences in revolutionizing energy. We are so excited to have you tune in for this week and have yourselves an amazing session. See you then.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Andy, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you online.
Nice to see you too. I want to thank you so much for honoring our invite. We're so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you.
You,
Grateful to be here.
thank you so much. You're one of the most active people I know on LinkedIn, and I need to give you. And
I am.
you like an influencer. I don't know if you know that.
Well, I would like to be a positive influencer, if that's
Mm.
possible. But the LinkedIn platform is just a wonderful place to spread the word and to get your message across and to find the good people in the world.
Absolutely. I don't think that could be any more truer. I always talk about we always talk about influences, but we never really talk about what kind of influence that they have. And I think today in this webinar is a wonderful opportunity to really flesh out that positive influence that you and Volt E Global have been having on rural African communities. And so on that note, I would love for us to start.
Okay.
Amazing. I think we've already started recording. So, yes, we can jump into it. I'll start by introducing our topic, and then we can jump straight into it.
Good. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new webinar for 2024. We're so grateful to have each and every one of you here today, whether you're joining us right now live or you'll be joining us later on our YouTube channel. We're so blessed to have you, and welcome to Energy Gist. So today our topic will be focusing on off-grid solutions and microgrid solutions in rural Africa. Now, this is a conversation that is quite nuanced. However, we've brought with us an amazing expert, Andy Peck, who is the founder of Volt E Global, and he will really be telling us what are the amazing initiatives that they have been doing in rural Africa, giving us some examples and really getting into the crack of what are microgrids and how could they possibly be valuable for a continent like Africa. Andy, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here, honored to be here, and looking forward to spreading our message.
I'm so excited. I would love to go into this conversation, right? So at Energy Just, what we're really trying to do is to bring an awareness of energy literacy, because we understand how sometimes some of the technical jargon can be very heavy for the everyday person to re-understand. And we're at a very pivotal point in time where we are experiencing energy poverty. And it really becomes amazing when then communities and civil society becomes part of that solution. So please take us through defining what are we thinking about when we're thinking about microgrids, and possibly how different is it to our traditional ways of generating electricity?
Well, to begin with, I apologize in advance that sometimes I have a little bit of a cynical viewpoint on what goes on in the energy industry. There's a reason why 600 million people in Africa don't have access or have limited access to electricity.
Mhm.
And the issue, I believe, and the problem, I believe, is the fact that energy is really not well defined for the
Mm.
purpose of getting it to people that need it. So when you talk about microgrids, you're talking a very general topic. And I'm going to discuss, again, my viewpoint. Microgrids are a great method to deliver green energy, green power to local communities in urban and city areas, in areas that have already been developed, in areas that already have distribution systems. Microgrids will not solve the problem of areas that have no access to electricity. And here's why. The reason why 600 million people don't have electricity is simple. And I like to simplify things. I don't like things complicated.
I love that.
They don't have electricity because they can't afford it.
Mm.
Now, there's two parts to that statement. Part number one, the utility companies could never afford to deliver power to those villages. It's just too expensive in traditional ways of utility to deliver to such a huge remote area like Africa, right? So different, so cannot afford it. But even if they could afford it to do it, they would have to charge a lot of money for it. And so in our philosophy, electricity is critical, but it's just something by itself that has no value. These villages, which I visited and we've done our research on, need a lot more than electricity. So any program that you listen to that talks about all of this big microgrid that's going to give you gigawatts of power and electricity, it's not going to help the people that we're focused on. It's not going to help the underserved populations. It's not going to help the off-grid people. It's going to help lower the cost and turn things more green for people that already have electricity. It's going to make electrical grids that exist more reliable. It's going to help expand cities and into urban areas and into communities. It's not going after the market that we go after. The market that we go after is a community that might have 100 people living there, or 200 people that is 100 kilometers from the city, or 200 kilometers from the city. Those are the people that we want to have electricity. Those are the forgotten mile, underserved communities that we call the people that have been left behind.
Yes.
And these people, in our opinion, are a tremendous resource for the world. These are the most important people in the world today, because what they have is a tremendous ability to produce great things for the global economy. Think about that. Think about 100 million workers in Africa that are trained in a skill and could produce products for the global community. What would that mean to the rest of the world? Well, there are certain countries in the world that would not like to see that. But we want to see that, and we will see that, because we have the solution that is going to solve the problem of Africa electrification. So you said you wanted simple terms. Electricity is complex. There's two types of electricity. There's alternating current, which is AC.
Yes.
And there's direct current, which is DC. Okay? AC versus DC. We always like to say we're the good DC versus Washington, DC, which is not the good, bad joke. But anyway, so I'm going to give you a quick overview of technology for rural villages. Direct current, low voltage, 48 volts. You can't get hurt. You can't start a fire. And what we do is we created a kit, a do-it-yourself kit for Village Smart. The villagers become the installers of their own infrastructure. They build out their own infrastructure. That's how simple this is. And think about how much it costs to hire a contractor, to hire an electrician, to hire a technician, to hire all of that. We've eliminated that cost. That's a tremendous amount of cost. So it costs very little to deploy this electricity. It's simple, it's safe, and it's sustainable. Those are the keys to what we're doing. And that's why people like today, I was in Machakos County in Kenya. They just, they want to know when we could deliver, when we could start doing a pilot. Because there is no solution in the world today that allows forgotten mile villagers to build their own infrastructure,
Yes.
and to bring electricity to their people. So that's the simple of it.
Honestly, that makes me feel so hopeful, right? Because, and what I love about the approach that you're talking about is also recognizing the agency of the people in the rural villages. Oftentimes when we talk about solutions, right, it's very much, oh, here's a solution, apply it. You know, it's very, it's almost in a way also condescending, right? Because it's we know what's best for you and not you knowing what's best for yourself, or rather maybe looking for energy solutions that are fitting to the context, right? And that are possibly using traditional ways of how the people in the rural villages used to or use or produce their energy. I think that's a very, really interesting conversation. And I think that really ties me back to how is Vault E Global doing things differently, right? You've touched on that slightly, but I'd really love you to walk us through even possibly some success stories of how you have done that approach of recognizing the agency of the people in rural African villages and communities.
So you sounded a little bit like Steve Jobs to me just now, and we loved Steve Jobs of what he did. Okay, Steve Jobs, what he said to his people, he said, first go to your customer. Go to your customer. In this case, it's the villager, right?
Yes.
Go to find out what they need. Find out what the requirements are. Once you find that out, work your way backwards to technology and make the technology work for your customer. So what you said is just the opposite, which is not good, right? You said that companies are taking what they really have on the shelf and try to shove it down the throat of people that don't have electricity. So because it's a business.
Yes.
So they want to sell what they already make. They want to sell what they already have. They want to use the status quo and existing. So your point was so excellent, and it's our point too. So what we started a couple of years ago in Kisumu, Kenya, and we went to a village and we learned as much as we could from that village. And it was mostly our country manager Hazel Akinney, who runs the operation in Kenya and in Kisumu, who did all the work, the research, the development of what our village infrastructure is going to look like. We did one pilot so far, and it's called Siderma. And the pilot was basically Hazel, together with the villagers, installing electrification for the village. They did it in one day. Wow. So now the village has a refrigerator, the village has a TV, the village has lighting, indoor and outdoor lighting. We know what the importance of the outdoor lighting for nighttime because of some of the terrible abuses that could go on in these rural areas and in darkness. And replaced all the kerosene lamps and the paraffin with electricity. And it's simple, and it's still working. And in appreciation of what we did, the villagers gave me a chicken. So I was able to get and you know what that means.
That's sweet, yeah.
So that's kind of the electrification part. But the solution for Africa is not just electrification. We learned a lot of other things about the village. We watched them walk down a long distance to the river to bring back dirty water that they're drinking. And this is a nightmare. We saw people that have health issues that don't have the ability to get solutions for their health issues. We saw people that are not employed, that are or working very hard for no wage. There are many issues besides electrification. So the VOLTE mission goes far beyond electrification. The VOLTE mission is the 5 pillars of infrastructure. We can't just bring electrification. We have to bring jobs. We have to bring water purification. We have to bring a health system of some sort. And we have to bring greenhouse technology so they can learn how to create other forms of nutritious foods that'll pick up their health. And so we call this the 5 pillars of infrastructure. And I'm actually coming to you today from a colleague's home, business home. And this colleague who's supporting us on this mission is a very famous African woman who is beloved here in Kenya. Her name, and her name might be familiar to you. Her name is Ambassador Amina Mohammed. And she's a very prominent was a UN diplomat, WHO. She was a prominent senator and political figure, and here in Kenya for many years. And she is the most humane person I've ever met. And when she saw what we're doing, she says, I want to be involved. This has to go in 20,000 villages.
Wow.
So when you see a real prominent figure embrace you and embrace us with love, and you're on the right track. And another family member is a very prominent brand creator, designer, who's creating the VOLTE, the NER brand of Made in Africa. A very high profile consumer brand of clothing for export. That's where economic development comes in, because these products will be made at the village level. That's why the U.S. Embassy and a lot of these other at the UN are so interested in what we're doing, because it's not just the electrification.
Absolutely.
We're going to bring jobs, and we're going to create a manufacturing base of thousands of villages so that people can now start coming to Africa for products to be produced instead of going to the Far East. This is critical in the development of these villages. And these villagers are smart, they're good souls, they're good people, and they've been left behind. Now, they're going to leapfrog with technology to the forefront, and in a matter of a number of years are going to become leading producers of great Made in Africa consumer products.
Wow.
Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about my motivation. I'm a businessman. We do good work in the United States. But when I went to Sederma Village about a year ago, and I visited, my mother's voice was in my ear. My mother, may she, rest in peace, was a Holocaust survivor. She was in a Nazi concentration camp in 1944, slave labor. And she always told us the only thing that bothered them so much was, why wasn't anybody helping them? Why wasn't anybody saving them? And when I went to Sederma Village, I heard my mother tell me, why isn't anybody doing anything for these people? That was loud. And that was a message from God. It was a message from God in the form of my mother's voice, that we have to be on a mission here. And we need collaboration from the entire world. And that's what we do. We network to the entire world. So that's why I'm doing what I do. It's not, I don't want to sound stupid, but it's not my love for African people. I like African people like I like any people. But it's the heart and soul of these off-grid villagers, that these are innocent, beautiful people that have been thrown away by cynical people around the world. And the reason why is because big corporations don't care. Political leadership usually doesn't care, doesn't care. So they don't see profit, they don't see opportunity, they don't see anything. They don't see oil in the ground. They only go to where they think they can make money, and they don't care. And I'm cynical about some of the charities, and we had many conversations about the nonprofits, the NGOs, the UN. We're looking at the UN, and they have refugee camps that remain refugee camps for eternity. What good is there in maintaining a refugee camp? Why don't you build a future for people? There's a reason why they do it. And you know what that reason is. Those camps, those places are generating a lot of money for that organization and paying a lot of high salaries. I'm telling you, I hate to give you that bad news, but the only way we're going to change the world is if people like us are going to change the world. Not the governments, not the big corporations, not the big organizations, not the charitable organizations. It's the little people, helping the little people. So, all right, I jumped too much into politics.
You know what, Andy? I don't think it's politics. I think it's a heart recognizing another heart. Because if I'm going to be quite honest with you, these are conversations that I have with my friends, and I think being an African, and from Africa, it's disheartening, I'm from South Africa, and we're kind of in a situation where, say, imagine, for example, a township, right, where a township and maybe a suburban, middle class income house where energy was constantly being pumped into these grids, and already within the township, because of the kind of an illegal informal settlement, they have to kind of steal the electricity and whatnot. But now imagine like there just not being electricity to generate or for everyone at all. And I see the impact of what that has on people's livelihoods and just the frustration, that is building up with even people that have middle income houses. And I think in there, it's this moment of sadness in a sense, which is like, how did we get to this place? And a lot of things contribute to it. Lack of good political leadership. And you know what I always bring it back to? I always say it honestly always comes back to integrity, right? Because if your integrity is not to serve others, then it's always to take, And I'm really moved by Vault, how you've positioned yourselves as Vault E to saying, we are not going to come and say, oh, we assume you need electricity, but we're actually going to come in and it's so anthropological, how you made the familiar strange and the strange familiar. And I think that especially if you go into a space saying, I'm going to go research so that I can come up with solutions that will serve the context, I'm really taken aback and I think encouraged, that we can still build businesses that have integrity. We can still build businesses that are to serve other people. And that service becoming nuanced in a way. So thank you for that. Thank you to you and your team. Thank you for remaining that heart. I even want to thank, the voice of your mother and God speaking to you, because those are the kind of leaders and thought leaders that we need to have. And I think need to even emerge out of Africa, to also get to a point where, like I said, getting to a point of practice of being empowered to practice your own agency. I think one of the things that I'd love to kind of go into, which you've already touched on, but to go into slightly. So when we think of empowerment, one of the things that we think of, especially empowerment that is sustainable as well. We think of your economy, we think of your environment and the social setting. How have you actually seen the lives of people changing with the pilot project that you had in Sidama in a sustainable way, just touching on the economic side, the environmental side, and the social side?
So it's a tough question for us to answer at this point because the purpose of our pilot was to work out the bugs of the technology. It was to make sure that what we're putting in is going to work. And the only way that you could do that is to put it in and let it operate for a year, at least a year, and see what's going to happen in that year's time. So we're about 3 months past a year now, and we're on our movement to start building villages with all 5 pillars. So there is a very very large Japanese company and bank that has embraced us and has decided to give us the financing for building the first 3 big villages. Big villages include all 5 pillars.
Wow.
Yeah, and that we probably will break ground, and it's in Kisumu County, in a town called Rada Village, and 2 other villages. We'll break ground this spring. Probably mid-April, we'll break ground and we'll build the first 3 villages. At the same time, we do have a program that we're working on for primarily electrification with other counties, with a number of, I'm visiting 6 counties during my visit. I just visited the first one today, Machakos County, which I posted. And, the reaction was, when can you get started, basically? And with the leadership of Machakos County. So I can't really give you feedback on that, but I could tell you that we're not just focused on deployment or electrification. We're focused on the embodiment of the community. We're focused that we're going to be there to educate, to teach, to learn, and to facilitate their success. This is critical. They have to learn new things about manufacturing. They're going to have a small factory there. They have to learn, how to purify water. We have a medical technology that they have. There's a lot of components. The other thing that we're doing that we're so excited about, and it is, I'm affiliated with the University of Pittsburgh engineering school. So I'm mentoring students, and I'm going to be doing broadcasts like this to large classes on the work that we're doing. But they needed a project. This is a very interesting story that I think you'll love. They needed a project. So late in November, I was here for Innovation Week in Kenya. Innovation Week, Commonwealth Edition. The Commonwealth was here. And we're very connected to the Commonwealth. And during that, we had a little booth for a week. It was great. But there were a whole bunch of high school students that had their own little booths with their little inventions.
Wow.
It was amazing. I was humbled. These high school students from Kenya, from all over Kenya, brought these inventions. So I picked a couple inventions. I said, guys, let me help you. So one of the inventions was a digital chicken coop. A digital chicken coop. Now, I grew up in a chicken farm. Digital chicken coop. Then I go to sit to lunch, and there's a young lady, a young Kenyan woman sitting at the round table, and we're talking. I said, "What do you do?" She goes, "I'm a chicken farmer." And I'm saying to myself, this is definitely something that God's passing down. I grew up at a chicken farmer. I met a high school kid that's is inventing a digital chicken coop, and I'm sitting next to a young lady that's a chicken farmer, right? What's going on here? So, bottom line is, I connected the dots. We're mentoring the college students on creating the digital chicken coop. The high school student is involved in that project with the college students. We connected high school and college, and the chicken farmer is our knowledge of the product of chickens, right? So now we have a collaboration of high school students from Mombasa, college students from Pittsburgh, from the University of Pittsburgh, a chicken farmer from somewheres in Kenya, and Volti that's going to take what they develop and deploy it in our first village that we're building. So that village is going to have, it's going to be, we call it a proving ground, right? It's a young inventors proving ground. That is going to be a collaborative effort of college and high school students and a chicken farmer together with Volt to see how you create solutions through global collaboration to help feed people. This is one of the most exciting projects I've ever been involved with.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's just, you know.
I think that's so amazing. But I think right there, that story actually depicts once again what we've been talking about, or the approach that we've been talking about, that says what are the contextual, I wouldn't necessarily say problems, or what are the contextual problems, or what are the contextual things that are happening within this setting, what is relevant within this space, and from there nurture then the solutions that come up from that space, and just kind of deliver them in the way that's more efficient, better, more refined. Kind of research has the research that backs it as well, and that's the kind of approach that we really need, because it's like the people within the space already know what they need, right? And I think this is a beautiful story, really, to share that, to say we discovered potential. We discovered a young people that were researching within the space, and we found someone that actually kind of had a problem, and we mixed all these guys together, which talks a lot about the power of collaboration, which I'd love to.
I love that, the power of collaboration, and that's what it's about.
Yes.
But it's also about one other thing. And I'm an older guy, even though I feel very young. It's about youth.
Youth.
It's about youth.
Yes.
And it's about young people elevating. And it's about older people having mentoring, but moving aside to give them room to grow.
Yeah.
So you have to have the collaboration between the elder and the youth.
And the youth.
The wisdom and the ambition. You gotta put together, give them space to grow. Another important point here about these communities is, I spoke about my mom. Let me say something about that. My father was the most positive, non-stressed person I ever met. And he suffered through the Holocaust as well. And he told me a story that he was in the woods one day running from the Nazis. And he had a talk with God. He said, God, get me through the war, and I'll be happy for the rest of my life with just bread and water every day. So my father says, we always ask him, why don't you ever complain about anything? He goes, because if I complain, then I'll be breaking my promise that I made to God.
Wow.
Of being just happy with my bread. And he's never complained about everything. But he also taught me, from darkness comes light.
Wow.
So think about, from darkness comes light. Africa has lots of darkness. And when it comes to electrical, there's darkness too, right?
Yeah.
So this really connects. So it's our obligation now, from this darkness, to light up Africa. And it's so feasible. it's not as challenging as people think.
Yes.
It's just that the big corporations are going to have to kind of step aside from thinking their own bottom line or their business plans, that selling the things that they have on the shelf, and look at paradigm shift on electrification. I affiliated with University of Pittsburgh, but I had issues with the utility company, which I had a relationship with, because at the end of the day, what you read about, they're doing this for the community, they're doing this, they're putting a EV charging and doing this, they're putting a microgrid. It's all about them. What they're doing is for them. It's not for the community. But it's presented in a way that the community believes they're being helped. Again, I told you I was going to talk a little bit about my cynical view. I'm an optimistic person. I love the world, but there's a reality. There is a reality here, and the reality is there are bumps in the road. There are roadblocks. There are a lot of things.
There are potholes in South Africa.
Potholes. We have to navigate. We have to navigate. Okay. There's, I forgot that. I think the movie was China Syndrome, where they were trying to put a nuclear power plant online in California. And there was a guy that worked at the power plant, an engineer, and he was warning everybody. His name was Jack Lemmon, the actor. He was warning everybody, hey, there is a problem here. And there's like this vibration, and nobody would believe him, right? And they depicted him as a crazy guy. The executives of the utility company were pushing to get the power plant online as soon as possible. And basically they depicted him as somebody that's trying to stop it for political purpose. He was trying to save the world from a nuclear meltdown. And the executives had him killed, pretty much. He was shot because he was trying to stop it, and the thing blew up. So the point here is that money has driven so many populations into such greed that they can't see the light. They only could see the bottom line. They can't see that 600 million African workers or 100 million African workers will change the world and make it better. They can't see that. They can't see that lighting up Africa will grow the world. You know what they see? How many containers a month can we ship to Walmart from China to sell to the American public? Let's try to get 2 more containers out this month. Let's ship 1,000 containers. We're going to make a lot of money. The world needs a little bit of an adjustment.
Can we then both agree, Andy, that when we think about sustainability, right, we also need to think about it in regards to our mindset, right? Because which I've been kind of finding juxtaposition. I've been seeing that there have been conversation, like the conversation that we're having around sustainability. It only becomes a conversation when we kind of see how can the financial return come out. But when we start thinking about sustainability, and it starts to challenge whether it's production or it starts to challenge the bottom line, then it's maybe not as supported, right? And so I would actually like to hear your views on that.
Well, I'll give you an example. And the example is a conversation I heard about carbon credits in Africa and, green energy in Africa and working towards green energy in Africa. And I'm saying to myself, why is a continent that it has such an issue of generating electricity worried about carbon credits? They should be worrying about how can I create reliable electricity, and I should be worrying about how do I get 600 million people electricity. The carbon credits, again, is for corporations to be able to get away with polluting the world because they're giving out money to other areas of the world so that they would grow a forest or they would, put some green energy in instead. So the purpose there to me is terrible. Sustainability is this, like you said, it's a state of mind. If you want to build a sustainable society, it begins at the grassroots level. It begins to understand what pollutes. What's the biggest polluters in the world? Cement is a big polluter. Clothing. Clothing is one of the biggest polluters in the world. So if you want a sustainable society, you have to change a little bit on how the fashion industry works. Because the fashion industry has 3-4 seasons, and they're looking at basically producing disposable clothing. Like
Yeah.
I can't wear that because it's a season old, right? It's old already, right? So you have to look at wearing clothes like me, wearing clothes from 10 years ago, right?
Love it. But
Yeah,
also, you guys had good quality clothes.
but
Hi, Andy, are you still with us? Hello, Andy. Okay. I'm not sure. I think the Taiwo, can you just say hi? I just want to check if it's from my side, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, Baba.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think we might have lost Andy for a while. I hope it's not my side. But I guess then, oh, that's quite sad. We're having such a robust I think he might try to jump on again. So let's maybe give him one more minute, because I think the conversation that we've been having is so robust. We talked about the topic essentially is, there we go. Gotcha.
About
Hi,
that.
Andy.
Sorry,
Hi. Hi.
sorry, I fell off.
No, that's okay. Yes.
So sustainability, a great thing for the world would be making sustainable clothing, making clothes out of, materials that the villagers are able to grow themselves, and just using materials that are, green and sound, and making that clothing with green energy. So to me, I think we're very fooled into thinking what sustainable means. I think we're very, very fooled, and from our perspective, the villages gives us this great foundation to build a new society. It's a clean slate. It's a clean slate. They don't have anything. So we could build again from the ground up. We're going to make it green. We're going to make it sustainable. We're going to focus on the citizen, on the resident, on the occupant, on their health, on their well-being, on their jobs, and their ability to grow and learn, on the children, on education. So we're going to work on creating that, kind of next generation of society. I don't want to sound like a Marxist or something here, but I see this, and it's not. Listen, I'm from the United States, so I'm not a socialist, But I think, but I think that these communities need a new form of government, local government, kind of the best of all worlds. I love the kind of kibbutz concept for them, or part kibbutz, where a community could work together as one. Because what do? There's these communities have these older people that can't work. So does that mean they can't get electricity? Does that mean they can't get clean water? No, you have to figure out a social system where the community could, the entire community is going to benefit from the backs of the young, the youth, the healthy, the people that could really work, and be very fair about it, as fair as possible. So, a sustainable community is what we dream about building.
Sustainable community, wow.
An equitable community, right? And again, we're there to make money. Don't get me wrong. We're looking to make money, but just to give you an idea, they're going to pay $12 a month for electricity, and it's going to include the appliances, and they don't have to pay any money up front. They pay as they go, and through our research, we found that they were paying just about that much for kerosene and paraffin and other things. So, and they could charge their phones. They have, USB ports. So the most important component is affordability, and you have to be fair to the entire community. So, and fair wage. We're paying $1 an hour at the micro management level, which we understand is a much higher than traditional salary for a villager. $1 an hour gives them $160 a month. That brings them disposable income. We also are going to put. We would love to put a wellness program. The technology that's available today, from your smartphone, you could scan your face. I could scan your face with the app that we have, and I can know all your body vitals, all your medical vitals.
Oh dear.
blood pressure, A1C, the most critical things. So imagine you go into a community, you scan everybody's face, and you have a platform that manages the data, and every 3 months you take data, you collect data, and you watch how people's health changes as a result of clean water, light, a job, right? And the greenhouse vegetables. I think this is so much about wellness. How can you have a worker if he's not healthy?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's affordable. They do. You have to give them the tools to build their lives.
Yeah.
You can't throw money at them. That's what they've been doing for so many years. They always talk about, oh, it's free. It's free. They're always expecting something free, because that's what the society did to them, and it's awful.
There's so many. Within this short conversation of about 50 minutes, we've touched on so many important aspects, right? Because the topic is about empowering communities, right? Particularly when we're looking at off-grid solutions and microgrid solutions within rural Africa. But I think what we've also fleshed out within this conversation is, what are we thinking about when we're thinking about empowering communities? What approaches are we using to empower those communities? Are we coming with ideals and ideologies and placing them on those communities, or are we actually going to the communities and anthropologically learning from them and what they need and what is suiting to their context? And thus then, by doing that, would be able to create sustainable, empowered communities. And from there, we've moved into looking at also, how does leadership play an important part in communities being empowered or disempowered? And what are other possible ways that they could either self-organize or that communities could organize in order for them to be empowered within that aspect and their resources as well. And I think also, last but not least, really talking about the heart, right? The heart of Africa truly beats, but I think also when we all work together and we all collaborate, when the young and the old collaborate, when we collaborate amongst ourselves, there's just something beautiful that happens. And I really want to thank you, Andy, for taking the time today to share passionately and unapologetically about some of your positionings and some of the things that you've seen. I think there's that kind of integrity that is needed in how we're going about, especially as business people, right? Where the bottom line is very much financial, oftentimes. But I think coming back to really, why do we do the things that we do? Why do we solve the problems that we attempt to solve? And then where does it all come back to? So I really, really want to thank you today from the bottom of my heart for sharing so many insights that were very heartfelt and very honest. We need more of that, because it's from that honesty that we can truly build. So we want to thank you for your time. We want to
Thank you.
thank you for what you guys are doing at Valti Global, for the rest of the African community and myself. And I mean, as an aspiring entrepreneur within Africa, you've also given me some things to think about as a young person as well. So I want to thank you for that as well. And just thank you for your time. I'm so excited for the feedback that we're going to get from this conversation, and what are other people saying, and I would love their feedback. But this will be on our YouTube channel, so we'd love for you guys to engage with that as well.
Love
Andy,
that.
I would love for you to round up for us, even if you give us a sentence or a line that you really love us to take home, and we'll wrap this call up. And thank you so much.
There's one very important point that I didn't touch upon, and I'll wrap it up with that important point. And it's going to offend a lot of people.
Oh,
I think one of the most important components of what has to be done, female empowerment. Female empowerment. The world cannot be run by males any longer. It's got to be managed. These communities need to be managed by female. That to me is one of the most important components to change Africa. So I hope I didn't offend all the men out there.
I have a very interesting position in that as well. So I've also seen oftentimes, but I think, okay, this is really what I think. I think balance, and there's a balance in the feminine and the masculine, and I think maybe because of the imbalance there are then consequences, but possibly what happens when we do strike a healthy balance between those two energies coming together and working for the greater good, whether it's for the community.
I agree. I agree with you with respect to personal relationships between man and woman. Balance. But with respect to political leadership, with respect to community leadership, I think a female is going to do a better job. That's my personal opinion. There's a certain sensitivity, soft, humaneness that women have that men lack, that is so much needed to empower communities, to encourage people to grow. That's going to come more from a woman. A mother, the mother of the child is the most important parent. A mother is the most important job in the world. A mother is a mother of a community, a mother of a country. Much, much better, my opinion. And don't get me wrong, I think men are capable, but but I just think where we are today, this is so important. And what we're doing in these communities, we are.
Hello? Okay, it seems as if we've lost Andy, but I think that's also some valuable insight to think about when we think about leadership with regards to empowering communities. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And a special thank you to our guest today, Andrew, and the amazing work that they are doing. So thanks everyone once again. And this is our first webinar from Energy Gist. We want to thank you for coming and listening. It was soon to have you. So thank you so much and bye.